What does Islamic philosophy mean? What is the meaning of it? Is there any Islamic philosophy, religion, Islam on one hand, and philosophy on the other hand? Are the two compatible each other? Let's investigate such complicated issues on this video. Commonly, when reading a book, History of Philosophy, we can hardly find History of Islamic Philosophy within it. The question is why? I think that happens because there is one grand narrative that was built by previous Orientalists that Islamic philosophy is only a duplication of Greek philosophy, so that they ignore the contribution of Islamic philosophy itself. It's regarded as a kind of footnotes of Greek philosophy. Besides, actually there are many terms used by scholars to refer to Islamic philosophy. It as Arab philosophy, Muslim philosophy, or philosophy in the Islamic world. Before going further, we need to take a look what the definition of Islamic philosophy according to Muslim philosophers is. Al-Kindi, the first Arab Muslim philosopher, defines that philosophy is science studying the quintessence of all entities in accordance with human beings' capability. Furthermore, Al-Farabi, called the second father of philosophy after Aristotle, expounds that philosophy in definition and in essence is science studying everything existence as it is. As a matter of fact, the term philosophy is absorbed into falsafa in Arabic. Unfortunately, in the Quran there is not any word mentioning falsafa. But all of the Muslim philosophers understand that philosophy or falsafa is a synonym of hikmah. According to Avicenna or Ibn Sina, hikmah is the perfectness of human being's soul when successful in achieving the meaning of everything and in being able to state the truth by both one's intellect and act in accordance with one's capability as a human being. I think it is clear enough what Ibn Sina means. He purports to demonstrate that the act of philosophy is not far from the act of being religious. It means that by one's intellect, human being can achieve the perfectness of the soul. This is one opinion from Ibn Sina to answer one of our questions. We will soon get back further to this point. By the way, by looking at the fact that the common books of history of philosophy in which we can hardly find the history of Islamic philosophy, we can take a temporary conclusion that the existence of Islamic philosophy is underestimated, not to mention fully ignored. Why? Let's start reconsidering whether Islamic philosophy deserves to be noted. In the 20th century, Islamic scholars from the West, or Orientalists, still did not have the common ground to call what we are now talking about: Islamic philosophy, Arab philosophy, or philosophy in the Islamic world. Firstly, several scholars such as Nasr, Peter Adamson, and Dimitri Kutas call it Arabic philosophy. Their reasons are that philosophy at that time used the same language, Arabic, as the lingua franca of the act of philosophizing. And that apparently not only did Muslim philosophers build the system of philosophy, but also Christian philosophers like Yahya bin Adi and Jewish philosophers like Maimonides participated within it. Furthermore, the use of the term Arab philosophy indicates that the system of Islamic philosophy is not seriously different from the system of Greek philosophy, and the difference is merely the language, Arabic. According to me, half of it is true, but the other is not. Actually, there are many themes that Muslim philosophers cover without referring to Greek philosophy, such as philosophy of prophethood, philosophy of sciencehood, philosophy of eschatology, and especially usul fiqh, philosophy of Islamic law. In addition, Islamic philosophy at the first emergence approached a new field in which there was a goal of synchronizing philosophy with religion. If so, shouldn't we call it theology? I don't think so, because that is the scope of Kalam or Islamic theology that covers such theological issues by virtue of the doctrine of Islam, while Islamic philosophy is anchored to the ground of reasoning. Secondly, several scholars decide to use the term Muslim philosophy. The reason is that the system of philosophy is based on the philosophers. The argument is weak enough. According to me, there is no Muslim philosophy if there is no Islam itself. Hence, the fundamental thing is the influencer, whereas the Muslim philosophers are the influenced. If there had not been Islam, there would not have been Muslim philosophers. Thirdly, philosophy in the Islamic word. This term wants to underscore the domain of Islamic word. At that time, the 8th, 9th, 10th century, when philosophy was flourishing in the Islamic world, from Andalusia to Khurasan. But we may doubt to agree with this term, because the philosophical activity was not done merely by Muslim philosophers, but non-Muslim thinkers who lived in the Islamic world as well. Fourthly, the majority of scholars use the term Islamic philosophy, like Montgomery Watt, Oliver Leaman, and others. This point wants to emphasize that it is completely unfair to take a conclusion that Islamic philosophy is merely the duplication of Greek philosophy. Indeed, we can't deny that Islamic philosophy is hugely influenced by Greek philosophy. But actually the source of Islamic philosophy is the Hellenized philosophy from Alexandria. Hence, the system of philosophy is not fully Greek. We know that Alexandria at that time became the center of scientific civilization, amalgamating several cultures and mystical traditions, like Persia, Egypt itself, and Greek. The chief crux is that Islamic philosophy is directly framed within the language of Islam, not of Arab, and within the cultural context of Islamic society, framed by the doctrine of Islam as well. The first three terms, according to me, only consider the philosophy to be a product, while the last regards the philosophy as a system. I myself stand up for the last one, because the act of philosophy in Islam is directed by the doctrine of Islam itself. In the Quran, many verses we can find suggest not only Muslims particularly, but also all human beings generally to ponder, to ruminate, to contemplate, to meditate, to muse on all entities in the world. Well, to sum up whole, according to my viewpoints, Islamic philosophy truly exists not because of externally the effect of the Greek philosophy, but especially because of internally the guidance of the doctrine of Islam in the Quran itself. That is all my viewpoints. What about your viewpoints? Let me know your viewpoints by texting it on the comments below. See you on the next video.